I've been a Synology NAS customer now for a good 7 years, and there just comes a time where you just need to upgrade. And the DS1618 Plus was an obvious choice, as I've used Synology in the past and I've been very impressed with their products. But in order to know why this was a good choice, we need to know where we're coming from. Around 7 years ago, I purchased the DS211J. This is now a very old piece of hardware, 7 years old obviously. And I filled this with 2 times 1 terabyte Hitachi hard drives in a RAID 1 configuration. I really use this as a backup device. It doesn't need to be high availability. I didn't really need redundancy, but in case one drive failed, I would like to still retain my backups. So I used it as a backup device. Now I understand that redundancy and backups are completely 2 different things, so let's not go there. And it was more of I wanted to back up my drives, and in case one hard drive failed, I would have another version. Now fast forward 3 years after this, I picked up the DS214 Plus. Now this is a much faster NAS from Synology. I think it's got about 1 gigabyte of RAM and a 2-core processor. And I pretty much put a 750 gigabyte SSD into this for really fast network storage. Now this device wasn't really about backups. I wanted this device to serve files on the network and to also use for media streaming to the television, etc. I do have a small amount of servers and they all access my Synology NAS to get the latest version of a file, which then runs on the server. Now these 2 NAS devices have served me very well over the years, but the DS211J was getting very slow and updates took an absolute age. So I decided on the Synology DS1618 Plus because it had 6 bays and I could combine my fast network storage and my backups into one device. And if down the line I thought this was a good solution, I could keep the old versions of the hardware and make use of them more. Let's fast forward to today, and the size of 4K video files is pretty huge. Steam libraries are pretty huge. So I needed somewhere to store all my files and put them in a RAID 1 configuration so I have redundancy, and also put in another drive for backups. This is why I picked the Synology DS1618 Plus. This NAS comes packed with a 2.1 GHz quad-core processor, 4 GB of RAM, 6 bays for your storage drives, and it also comes equipped with a PCIe add-in card for making future purchases, which will enable 10 gigabit networking or SSD caches, etc. You can also attach 2 expansion units to this device so you can increase capacity. So being able to upgrade the RAM, upgrade the expansion units for more drives, and to add PCIe interface cards into this, I thought this was a pretty good solution for my future needs. The theory was easy enough. In Bay 1 I would install a 250 gigabyte SSD for fast network storage, 2 6TB Western Digital Red NAS drives into bays 3 and 4 in a RAID 1 configuration for having redundancy, and then in bay 6 I would install a Western Digital 10 terabyte Red NAS Pro drive into it and use that as a big backup drive. Once all the drives were installed, I then headed over to the IP address of my shiny new NAS, logged in and prepared to set up my drives, volumes and shares for the network. I won't go into much detail here because there's tutorials etc. all around the web on how to use the Synology OS software, so you can go elsewhere for that, but this is just a bit of a rundown of what I did. After I set up the hard drives, volumes and shares, the Synology OS then proceeded to check the disks. This did take quite a while, probably a maximum of 20 hours to check the disks for bad sectors etc. So you just need to bear with it really. Once done, the NAS then is fully accessible and you can read and write files as quickly as possible. I was actually really surprised by the Western Digital Red NAS drives, the 6 terabyte versions, as these were really quiet even when in full read and write mode. And I was very surprised because I'm used to these two really old Hitachi drives, and they made an absolute racket in that NAS. So it really put me off mechanical hard drives, but now with these two Red Western Digital drives, they are supremely quiet. So I'm actually considering using these for future projects, as I just really hate the noise that mechanical hard drive makes. But because they don't really make much noise, problem solved. The Western Digital 10TB Pro Red NAS drive, on the other hand, is quite a bit louder, and once you are reading or writing from the drive, it does make that slight clunky sound, and vibrates here and now and again. So I wasn't really keen on that, but I only use this for a backup drive, so most of the time it's in sleep mode, and you can only really hear it when you are reading or writing to or from the drive, or it's idle. When in idle mode, it makes that occasional clunk, clunk sound. It's quite subtle, and I do have this on a filing cabinet metal shelf, so that would amplify it. So I am actually considering putting some more rubber feet underneath the NAS to soften the sound a bit. So that's pretty much it. I've been using this current NAS now for a good week. It is supremely fast. I can see it serving me very well in the future, and like I say, it's quite quiet. It's snappy, it's responsive, it's just effortless to use. The Synology OS is a dream to use. No wonder it's won so many awards, and I couldn't be happier with the purchase. I love the fact that I can upgrade it to 10 gigabit network speeds in the future, or an SSD cache drive. Not that I'd really need it. And I'm actually considering this because I'm installing a 10 gigabit network cable, Cat6a, throughout the house so I can expand my network. And at the moment, I'm just going to use this for 1 gigabit connection until I get the routers, the network cards, which are the more expensive bits. But I thought I would use Cat6a just to future-proof me when I do go to 10 gigabit in the future. My super old DS211J is being recycled as a purely backup drive now, which only gets switched on at the end of, say, each month, every 2 months, just to take a big backup from my NAS. It's only 1 terabyte, so only the most important files go over. But this means I can store this either in a different part of the house or even in a different building if I have to, for an off-site backup. The DS214 Plus is still going really strong. I mainly use this for a media server, and it sits next to my new DS1618 Plus, and I use this, like I say, for storing media and for storing non-essential files that I want to make available for fast retrieval on the network. Like I say, I couldn't be happier with the DS1618 Plus, as I can expand it vastly in the future to 10 gigabits, SSD cache, much more expansion units, as you can plug 2 in the back and increase your storage capacity. So I feel I'm going to be with this new NAS drive for, say, 4 to 8 years from now, and it should serve me very well. So thanks for watching this video. Please feel free to ask any questions whatsoever regarding this NAS drive, and I shall play around with it, test it, and get back to you ASAP. Please like and subscribe, and I shall see you then in the next video.